So it's my job in 6 minutes to kind of put a skeleton of parenting teenagers out there, and maybe to suggest an idea or two that might help. I have a buddy who just sent his daughter to college, and in the last month or so, we were together, and he raised this powerful question that has really stuck with me. So here's Tom's question. How do you hold a kiddo that doesn't want to be held anymore? And that question stuck with me. It's kind of a dagger, because that's somewhat been my own experience raising teenage kids. I think it's true, and it touches upon our job. So this is the developmental framework. What's going on with teenagers is this. They experience a mandate to grow up. I don't know what causes it, hormones, culture, starting high school. But anyway, they know that it's time to leave behind childhood. And so you don't see him carrying the Game Boy around. You might see the stuff at home, but it doesn't go out in public because that's childhood. And what's next for him? I don't think teenage boys understand maturity in the same way that we do as adults, at least the way I hope we do as adults. We understand that it's about hard work and commitment and fidelity and responsibility. They don't always get that right away. It takes them a while. What they for sure do turn towards is their social group, and that's where it's electric and life happens. And this is painful for parents. That cute little boy that adored you and wanted to sit on your lap now wants to turn his attention and sights outward. And it's tough. Parents can feel left out. Just this morning, I got a call from the parent of an upperclassman who said he's always been quiet, but now he's even quieter. But he talks to his friends, not to me. And that's tough. So what helps? I don't know if Albert Einstein is like the noted genius on parenting, but I kind of thought, what could I use? So I think we're all familiar with Albert's E=mc² equation. So I thought I might play with that a little bit, just in the interest of giving us something to hang on to. The E, not energies, is expectations. I think if we see adolescence as an inherently disordered thing, we're creating trouble. If we expect that our kids are going to be hellions, they will honor that by being hellions. But if we expect good things from them, if we savor and enjoy their exuberance and their goofiness, life will be better for us. The M is to monitor. Their desire, really and truly, is absolute freedom. And they will say, I want to be free. They don't get it that they need to do the responsibility part, but they sure want the freedom. And they're totally not ready for it. They're just not. So we need to monitor. Please avoid this extreme of kind of just saying, you're a big boy now, deal with it. You're on your own. It's high school now. Some of our kids need a whole lot of help and monitoring and support, even when they're seniors. Don't just abandon your kid because he's a teenager. On the other extreme, a friend of mine suggested that we don't talk about helicopter parents as much as maybe the image is curling sweepers. Those parents that want to sweep every danger and thing and obstacle out of their child's way so that their child does not get hurt. And that's an injustice to our child as well. They need to face tough stuff on their own. And the last thought I share with you tonight is that we need to connect. And there's an exponent. Andrew, math person, I hope I did this right, equations, exponents. We have to work extra hard. It is tough to connect with a kid that doesn't want to be held anymore. So I just thought I'd toss a couple of ideas your way. 9 different things that you might find helpful. Honor the family meal as much as you can. In the Kemp household, we try as much as we can. And at our meals, we ask questions. What was the best thing? What was the hardest thing? What was the funniest thing? And it varies, but we want to connect. It's a good question to ask. Vary it up so that they don't, catch on. Texting is their domain, and we've got to be careful not to intrude too much, but what about a text that just says, I'm thinking about you? I just sent one to my wife just before note on the pillow, I love you, man. Drive him and his pals around. You are freshman parents. I doubt many of them are driving. So why not on a Friday night say, hey, call up a couple buddies, I'll take you to the movies. I'll sit 10 rows back. You won't even know I'm there. Give them hugs at home. Moms, you know what I'm talking about. You've already felt this pain. Because you're like, how come he doesn't, it's like, oh, he doesn't want to hug me. It's creepy for him. So do that at home, okay? Tim Gillard, New Jersey guy, this is an homage to have a catch. We in the Midwest say, let's play catch, but in New Jersey they talk about having a catch. We've all seen that powerful movie, Field of Dreams. How powerful is it for a boy to have a catch with his dad? Maybe it's not catch, maybe it's working on the car. Maybe it's doing something together side by side. Continue to do that. This is the via negativa. Watch our words. If you're saying to your child, you're never going to amount to nothing, you're going to work at McDonald's, anything that starts with you followed by a pejorative, maybe we need to get some support to unload that anger and deal with it so that we stop hurting our kid with our words. Jim Miller, I learned from Jimmy. My kids are 19 and 16. What Jimmy taught me is if they want to talk at 1:30 in the morning, that's the time to talk. I stayed up for my daughter the other day because she was having a hard time. It was beautiful. Minimize the advice giving. If you think about it, they're trying to be grown up. And if we give advice constantly, that diminishes their sense of I'm growing up. Rather be a sounding board. It's different. It's not like he was 8 years old and you can say, I want you to go, look that bully square in the eye and say, stop it. That's advice giving. We need to be a sounding board. What do you think you could do to handle this? Respect. And finally, continue to show up. Continue to come to the games. Continue to be there for him. All the counselors will tell you that they've heard this many a time. I knew my mom and dad were in the stands. I knew it. They were there. I appreciated it. So thank you. That's my piece, short and sweet. I'm going to give you to Jim Miller. And thank you.
Okay, I'm back for just a short little thing on academics. And the point that I want to make with you all is the fact that obviously we are first and foremost a school that values education and promotes it, obviously, encourages it. But the bottom line is what we need to get across to our young men. So I want to share with you what we kind of tell these young guys as the bottom line. I teach a class in the summer on study skills and adjusting to high school, and some of your sons may have taken that class. One of the mantras that I used was similar to the Nike deal, just do it, and that applies to homework. I tell them that homework is the minimum expectation that we have of every student here at CBC. And how that works is our expectation is that all of it will be completed. Not 2 out of 10 assignments, not 20 out of 30 assignments, but 35 out of 35 assignments. All the assignments get done. Secondly, they get turned in on time. That's very big with high school teachers. Okay? All the assignments getting done, all of them turned in on time. And lastly, you have to put a little effort into it. So all the assignments turned in on time with effort showing through. That's the minimum expectation that we have of every student. And I tell the freshmen, this is not going to get you A's. This is the minimum expectation. As far as a little bit of an advice for you all, both already touched on it. I would wholeheartedly support what he said. Your job is to monitor. And we have a great system here with the Blackboard where you can monitor your son's grades. And the whole point behind it is that highlighted in black, instilling a habit of consistency. Okay? Check those grades, work with him to keep his consistency up. The thing that we'd like to suggest is that It doesn't necessarily have to be every day, okay? Because like Walt mentioned, we have to strike that balance between being over-involved and being under-involved. But you might want to sit down with your son and set up a schedule or kind of a tentative way in which you're going to keep this consistency going and monitoring. If your son struggles, there are so many good people here at CBC that want to help your son be successful. Teachers, advisors, counselors, coaches, administrators, chaplains, mentors, older students that are in the homeroom. There is just, I tell the freshmen, every time you turn around, there's somebody there that wants to help you. And so, utilize them. That's what they're there for. We'd also like to put a plug in to you all as you start this new adventure of monitoring your son's grades. On September 3rd at 6 p.m. in room 120, we will provide kind of a hands-on as to how you can do this. I'm sure if you're like me at the low end of the computer gene pool, you're sitting there going, wow, how do I do this? The computer, wow. Okay? This is a very informative evening. It's hands-on. We'll take you through it step by step. You'll walk out of there very proud of yourself. Now I can do it. And for those of you that are swift on that, you can be on it right now. But this is something that we'd like to encourage you to at least check out and think about attending. So with that in mind, we're going to get Jim Brockman up here.
Hey there, everybody. Take a look at that image for a second. It's an image from freshman orientation, and of course you guys have seen plenty of images. If you came in here early, you saw the images scrolling through from freshman orientation. Of course, the dust is starting to settle now from freshman orientation. They were on that high that we call it the freshman orientation high. They were jacked, they were ready to go. And certainly now the reality is sitting in. For my piece here, I want to use this image of freshman orientation, in particular the tug of war. All right, I want you to look at that image and I want you to pretend that his parents and his teachers were on the other side. Now, that probably pretty much sums up the teenage years. Okay, so thanks for being here. Good night. No, I'm kidding. I want you to use that image though, but before I tell you about that image and why I use it, I want to give you a story. I get the opportunity in the summer to meet with all of your son's mentors. We have them come in, they spend a day with us going through an orientation program. And when we bring them in, we talk to them about kind of mitigating and helping guys work through struggle. And so I asked them to kind of make my point. I asked them, I said, and you can do this yourself. I say, think to yourself and think back to when you walked in, you stepped foot at CBC. And think about all the hopes and dreams and everything that you thought you were going to do. Now raise your hand if your experience at CBC has gone exactly the way you thought it was going to go. That you've done everything exactly the way you thought it was going to go. Of course, naturally, as you can imagine, not a single hand goes up, mine included. I certainly sit there as my experience did not go as planned. My plan was to come into CBC. I was going to be a 3-sport star. I was going to play football. I was going to play basketball, and I was going to play baseball. Of course, then I was going to go to Notre Dame on a full football scholarship, all 5'8" of me. Of course, that was unless the NBA came calling and drafted me right out of high school. So, certainly I was kind of woke up to the reality when I was the 3rd string running back my freshman year. I was the 4th string running back my sophomore year. I got cut from basketball and I got cut from baseball. Then I asked them, I said, gentlemen, raise your hand if you've had an awesome experience at CBC. And without a doubt, without fail, we've been doing this for 5 years. Every single hand goes up. And so back to the image. My image today is a message to you the idea is don't drop the rope. First to them. Things over these next 4 years are not going to go perfect. They're not going to go as planned. All right? There's going to be ups and downs. There's going to be struggle. And if you think about one of these great tug-of-war contests, there's a back and a forth. We want to encourage our young men not to drop the rope. When things don't go as planned, the easiest thing for a young man to do is drop the rope, turn around, and run. We want to encourage them to keep a hold, keep struggling, keep fighting through. It's through this struggle we know that some of the biggest growth happens. Secondly, on that message is to you, as parents. Don't you drop the rope either. You have to be their balance. You're at the other end, we're at the other end. We're helping them keep them in this, all right? We know they're going to struggle, but we want to help them see through to the end of that. We know that growth comes from struggle. So that's my first message. My second message, and it goes right along with that, as the people on the other end, help pull them out of their comfort zone. Help pull them into experiences. That's what high school is all about. High school is about spending 4 years finding themselves, finding new things, new opportunities. And as teenage boys, they're going to resist it. They like comfort. They love comfort. And they're going to stay in comfort for most of them as long as we let them pull them out. As teachers, as parents, we're going to spend the next 4 years trying to put them in situations where they may be a little uncomfortable, where they may struggle, and they're going to resist it. Help give that nudge. As I mentioned at the beginning, I got cut from basketball, I got cut from baseball. And I sit here today in front of you telling you those were the two best things that ever happened to me in my life. Those things were my nudge. They were my nudge out of the things that I thought were going to be my future into the things that ultimately ended up being my future. So I went home, and moms and dads, I don't want to marginalize the importance of when those guys come home, when things haven't gone as planned. I remember going to my mom and I said, "Mom, I got cut." And of course, she, as lovingly as possible, said, "What are you going to do now?" And I was like, "Well, that's a good question. I think I'm going to sit in my bed and play video games." And she's like, "Well, you got to do something. You can't just sit around. You got to do something. You got to get involved." And she said, "Well, your brother wrestled. Why don't you go wrestle?" I said, I don't want to wrestle. I'm not a wrestler. I'm a basketball player." And she said, "Well, you got to try something." Well, along with her and my parents and my coaches, I ultimately ended up wrestling. At the same time that I got cut from baseball, and I went home again, and as lovingly as she could, she said, "What are you going to do now?" And I said, "You're right, Mom, I don't know." She's like, "Well, what about a job? What about a summer job? Make some money, that kind of thing." She's like, "I know of a caddy scholarship, or I know of a caddy gig that you could get." And I said, "Well, caddy, I don't play golf. I'm not probably going to be a very good caddy." And she's like, "Well, why don't you try it?" By my senior year, I was an all-state wrestler, and at the end of my senior year, I was awarded a full scholarship because I was a caddy. I sit here again today in front of you telling you that getting cut was the best thing that ever happened to me, all right? So, of course, you sit there thinking, what is he saying? All right, I'm certainly not saying have your son get cut from baseball and go be a caddy. Although it worked out really, really sweet, okay? It was pretty cool. The message I want you to leave with is every time one door closes, as adults, we know another one opens. But for our sons, for our boys, they don't see that yet. All right, the biggest deal to them was what they think they wanted. And so when that door closes, we need to be there to support, as Walt said, but we also need to be there to encourage, to pull them out of that comfort zone, to get them to step into that something else that they may never have seen before. I didn't see wrestling on my horizon, and I certainly didn't see caddying on my horizon, all right? Ultimately, it's up to them to walk through that door, but sometimes they need that nudge. They need somebody to pull them through. And so, again, two messages. One, don't drop the rope, don't let them drop the rope. Number two, help pull them into some of these things. At the end of the presentation tonight, you're going to hear Dean Meyer, Coach Strupp talk about some of those different things that they can get involved in. So that ends my part. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks so much for being here. I'm proud to introduce to you guys now Tracy Gillian, our learning specialist.
Hello, everybody. I'm here to talk about the general academic resources that we have available here at CBC. And as Jim said, we encourage our kids not to drop the rope, and that's not only with the extracurricular type opportunities and co-curriculars we have here, but we also need to encourage them to keep up with that academic piece that can also be a struggle. And we provide lots and lots of opportunities here for our kids to get that extra help. The first slide talks about the general academic resources that are available to every student in our school, and our individual teachers are very willing and able and ready to work with your students. Sometimes it takes making an appointment with them to find that time when they can work together with their schedules, but definitely have your sons step out of their comfort zone, make those appointments with their teachers as need be to get that extra support that they might need to get over that hump that they may be experiencing with any kind of academic difficulty. We also are really privileged here at CBC to have a Learning Resource Center here on campus, and it's a room that is open and available to all of our students before school, after school, during our office hours time of advisory, during activity period time. And it's staffed all day long with 2 people before, after school, and during the day as well. That room is where our study halls are held, but it is also the space where kids can go in and get academic support. We intentionally staff that room with math strong individuals because we know at home parents can help with maybe many other subjects, but sometimes math is not always our personal strength anymore, especially after we've gotten away from our high school math experience. So we make sure we've got math people there, but those math people can also help work with the sciences and the histories and the other subjects that they may be having questions with. We also have math and world language labs that are open during office hours and or activity period, and so the students will find out more about those labs as need be, and they can ask their math teacher or their language teacher when those labs are available to them. On the next slide, we talk about specific academic resources, and those resources are things that students would have to sign up for in order to receive. The first one is our National Honor Society program, and those are our juniors and seniors who are in National Honor Society who provide tutoring for individual students who sign up for that and have a request put in for that. We hope to get that program started this year about the second week of September. But if students are interested in signing up for a National Honor Society student tutor, they can go ahead and start requesting to get that form. And that form can be accessed through the guidance department, or they can come up to the Learning Resource Center and ask for a form there. We also have fee-based professional tutoring here on our campus, and so parents can contract individually for that. And we also have the special needs program, and I'm the director or coordinator of the special needs program for students with special learning needs. So if you're out there and you haven't talked to me about that, or what that program entails, or what kind of services we provide through that and accommodations we can offer your student through that, please contact me. And in fact, you can contact me about any one of those 3 because I help coordinate the tutoring programs as well, the National Honor Society tutoring as well as the professional tutoring. And then the last piece of the puzzle for the extra help that we offer here at CBC is our Response to Intervention program. And this is for support for all of our students here who may start underperforming academically over a period of time. We have some subject-specific academic recovery rooms, and that is for world language and math again. Those are the 2 areas where we see students struggle the most overall, who again are having a hard time finding outside of school support. So we make sure that we give them that kind of support here at school. They are asked to report to a particular room if they don't do well on a quiz to master then those skills to be able to move on and get stronger in that skill. The second tier of our help is the academic recovery program. And those are students who may be underperforming in general. And we do a grade check every 3 weeks for students. And for freshmen, if their grade point average at that 3-week marking period is at a 1.75 or lower, then they will be in an academic recovery room for 3 weeks in order to bring those grades up so that they can move on and hopefully become more academically successful. Those rooms are staffed by 5 core teachers along with a world language teacher, And it's a really good program to get kids moving forward who may be just overwhelmed and struggling. So if you have any questions about these programs at any time, or you have concerns about your son's academic performance at any given time, please contact and reach out to the guidance department or to myself, or again to individual teachers or advisory teachers. We're all here to support you as parents and here to support your children as well. And now I'm going to turn it over to Dean Meyer, who's our, Jeff Meyer, I should say, Dean of Students. We call him Dean.
The nicest thing I get called, I'll be honest with you. As you've heard earlier tonight, a lot of great things really are happening here at CBC. For those of you who were at the freshman orientation closing games, I think you can attest to that. 50% of the students went to the first football game the other night in the heat, which I think shows how excited the kids are about being here. And I think the bond of brotherhood is really starting to come together, especially with the freshmen. A lot of parents want to know ways that students can get involved. The easiest way for students to get involved in any of the activities here is through the Student Leadership Council. The website's up here, and they take care of all the clubs and activities and intramurals, and that's the easiest way for the students to get involved, and that's a central place, that website, where they can find out everything that's going on. They just held a club fair last week where over 20 clubs were represented out in the hallway, in the hallway out there, and they had a lot of people sign up. I know the Spanish club actually was the one that signed up the most kids, so I'm excited about that. Along with all the activities and the things and all the good things that are going on, there are some areas of concerns, and there's just a few things I want to talk about that are very common, especially among the freshmen. Two areas of concerns are the computer and then the bullying that unfortunately does occur, and I'll get to that in just a second. But as we talk a little bit about the computer, the first problem that we see with the freshmen especially is academic integrity or cheating. And the computers make it very easy for the students to do this, and a lot of times it's not even intentional, in that one student will call another and say, hey, can you email me that assignment? I didn't get the assignment, or did you get your homework done? Email that over to me. What they don't realize is sharing these documents is a way of cheating. And so one of the best things that you can do as parents is to help reinforce what we do, and that's that the students need to just communicate with the adults. Whenever I talk to students with Mr. Seymour who've been accused of cheating, or they've emailed an assignment to someone else who's turned it in as their own, we always ask them, what could you have done differently? What do you think would have solved this problem? And they always say, well, I guess I could have talked to the teacher. Well, yeah, hello. If you go talk to the teacher and you say, I didn't get my homework done last night, okay, they may not give you full credit for it, or there may be some punishment in the class or whatever, but it's not going to be as bad as if they get caught cheating. So one of the things we encourage you to do is to help your sons understand that if they don't get an assignment done, or if their buddy asks them for an assignment, or they feel the need, the best thing to do is to communicate with the adults in the building, and the adults will work with the students. And if they know that up front and they go approach the teacher, normally the teacher will work with them on that. The next biggest challenge facing your students is social media. And I will tell you that as a parent of a sophomore and an 8th grader, I'm facing that challenge right now. What I can tell you is people tell us all the time what your kids are doing on social media. We don't have to spy on them, and I don't want to know what they're doing if you want to know the truth. But we find out about it because they'll post a picture, they'll post something on there that shouldn't be on there, or that says something bad about their family or about CBC, or it represents them as a CBC student, and it's inappropriate, and we find out about that. Here's what I do, and I'm not saying it's right or wrong. It works for me. I'm not my son's friend on Facebook. I don't look at his Instagram. I don't do Snapchat. I don't do any of that stuff. But what I do is I have an understanding with both my kids that I have their passwords for their phone, for their accounts, and everything else, and I can look at it whenever I want. And so they know that whatever they put on there, it better be okay if I read it too. And so far, I haven't had too many problems with it, but that's not to say that we're not going to. If you want to be your son's friend on Facebook and find out everything they're doing and know everything about their friends and everything else, then that's up to you. I've found that it works for me knowing that I have access to everything that they have and that I can get in it if I need it. Talk a little bit about bullying. We'd like to think that we're bully-free or we're free from bullying, but we're not so naive to think that we don't have problems. what's happening here, especially now that the freshmen are comfortable, they've been here a couple weeks, they've met a lot of people, they're starting to jockey for position, they're trying to figure out, where do I fit in? Do I fit in with the jocks? Am I one of the smart guys? Am I the guy that's going to get the lead role in the play? Am I the guy that's going to win the intramural contest? So they're trying to figure all that out. They're sort of jockeying for position. This is when bullying comes up. And generally, the things that we see with bullying are not traditional, when we were kids, the big bully would come up and throw you in the locker or beat you up on the playground. It's mostly verbal. A lot of it's done through social media, and it happens places where we can't see it, and that's in the hallways, in between classes, in the locker room. A lot of it happens behind a computer screen. So what we encourage kids to do is to say something. And a lot of times that's really hard. They don't want to be the snitch. They don't want to be the one that told on them. They don't want to be the observer that told the teachers, hey, I saw Joe do this. But that's what we need. We here have a way of dealing with these things, and we deal with it head on. When we're informed of something, that something did happen, we deal with it head on, and we have a way to make sure that the problem goes away, and that the person who reported it, that there's no retaliation against that person. We're very good at doing that. What I would ask you for help is to encourage your son, if he sees something or he knows something that's going on, is to report it. Chances are they're not going to want to walk in my office or talk to their advisor or something like that. So we do have a program called School Messenger, which is accessible on Blackboard for the students to use. And it's an anonymous reporting service where they can send an email anonymously to the guidance counselors and myself about whatever their concerns are, whether they saw something happen or whether something's happening to them. And they can do that anonymously, or they can leave their name. But either way, we will follow up with it and make sure that it gets taken care of. So I don't want you to think that this happens a lot, because it doesn't. But again, this is the time when it starts happening, is when the kids are starting to get comfortable here and trying to find their way through the school and sort of where they fit in. So with that being said, a little bit more about the co-curriculars and how you can get involved. I will introduce our athletic director, Dr. Rocky Streb.
Good evening. I am here to discuss, won't bore you, everybody knows what high schools have, and for opportunities for kids to participate. The co-curricular activities that I'm going to talk about this evening, very quickly, there's a lot available here. There really isn't a reason. I just turned that off, didn't I? That wasn't good. There we go. There really isn't, and you heard Mr. Brockman talk about it, there really isn't a reason for a young man not to get involved. There's a plethora of opportunities. The common fine performing arts, like in this beautiful facility right here, and all the athletic activities that we offer all the mission sports, Missouri State High School Activity Association sports that they sponsor. We have a half a dozen clubs on top of that, club sports. We have a whole mess of clubs. They just had club fair last week for the guys to look at different opportunities that are available to them. And then leadership and service opportunities. As Jim pointed out, I'm sure your son's going to get involved in something that he didn't anticipate getting involved in before now. And that's really a good thing. All the academic, all this activities have an academic focus. And for athletics, whether it's a mission sport or a club sport, and for the fine and performing arts activities, in order to perform or compete, the student has to be academically eligible. If a student is on the academic probation list, he cannot compete or perform. So we really keep an eye on their academics, and it's a great carrot on a stick, if you will, to keep the kids working hard in class. And they all do anyway. It's just another thing for them to be proud of when they do get to compete. Some of our kids, a lot of our boys, want to move on to the next level in athletics in particular. And it's a seller's market the universities really have yet. So this academic focus is very important. Take basketball, for example. The NCAA reports out about 500,000 boys playing basketball in high school. And at all three of the NCAA levels, there's 15,000, a little more than that, men playing basketball. So that's about 3%. If if you take a random selection of 100 high school basketball players, only 3 of those guys are going to get to play at the next level. And by the way, only 25% of them are receiving academic aid, financial aid for a scholarship. Most scholarships come in the form of an academic award as opposed to an athletic award. Most universities will have between 30% to sometimes as high as 60% of their students on academic aid, not so much on athletic. Doesn't mean they can't work for it, and they should. They should have that dream. But in the reality that we live in, the universities control this, and academics is now the focus. The idea of the dumb jock really just doesn't exist in reality anymore. Not that it ever did if you were a college athlete, not a dumb jock. Just to get the opportunity to compete at the next level, the requirements have gone up considerably over the last few years, in fact. In 2016, this comes into play, so it qualifies. Your son will work under these guidelines. The sliding scale, the higher the ACT, the lower the GPA can be, but NCAA's rule is, or their mantra is, 2.3 or take a knee. That's pretty much it. You have to have a 2.3 GPA minimum to get a scholarship and to be able to compete in a college. So the academic focus should never be minimized, and here it isn't. It's just so very important. Our eligibility requirements for our kids to participate is elevated over what the state requires, and we're quite proud of that, and our boys respond to that and do very, very well with that. Our website, I know you can't see it very good, but I would please direct anyone with needing information about athletics to the website, the school's website, click athletics. From here, you can get schedules, rosters, and all that kind of stuff. But there's a tab called Parent Resources. The top 4 links on there are in red. If your son is participating in a mission sport, that's where you kind of have to go. The required athletic physical form, the required physical form. There's a parent permission form that we need for our school, emergency contact form. There's a video that the state of Missouri has a law that if your son participates in a Missouri State High School Activities Association sport, you have to watch this video. So you signed a form already saying that you did. I don't know if you know that or not, but if he's playing football, you watch this video. You can just go right to that link, and it takes about a minute and a half. So those top 4 in red, the final one including our code of conduct, which is the behavior code related to the privilege of being able to participate in both fine and performing arts and athletics on a mission and club level. Everything else on there is information, and you may find it important. I hope that you do. We work real hard to keep the website as informative as we can. Not perfect. If there's something that you need to know that isn't up there, just let me know. We'll find a way to get it on there. And when I make mistakes, people find out and they tell me, and I do appreciate that because we want it to be right. And that's it. I'm going to introduce you to Andrea Mann, who will talk about diversity.
Hello, I'm Andrea Mann. I teach math and engineering here, but I'm also the coordinator of diversity, so I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about diversity at CBC. So CBC has always been a diverse community. Here's a snapshot of our current student population. So out of the freshman class, we have students from 108 different schools. And of the entire student population, we have students hailing from 100 parishes and 87 zip codes. So I just want you guys to take a look at this really quick, if you can see it. This is our mission statement, which is in every single classroom. This is posted in our classrooms as a reminder to us why we are here as educators. So we serve students from all different backgrounds, geographically, socioeconomically, and academically, just to name a few. CBC is also a LaSallian high school. What does this mean? It means that we have a strong desire and concern to help support students from all different backgrounds. We want to make sure to enhance their overall experience because we truly believe that each student has their own individual gift or talent that needs to be celebrated. We prepare students not just for college, but for life. But what else does it mean to be LaSallian? These are some of our core principles: concern for the poor and social justice, faith in the presence of God, respect for all persons, an inclusive community, and a quality education. We practice these core principles and celebrate diversity as a community here at CBC. So part of this community at CBC involves our students. One of the things that we like to do with them is celebrate Mix It Up at Lunch Day. This is a national campaign launched by Teaching Tolerance. And what it does is it encourages students to sit with different people one day at lunch and get to know each other. This year's national date is October 28th. Our community also includes our faculty, their continued help and support in our programs and initiatives, as well as their role in managing diverse classrooms. So this community also includes you guys, parents and families. We're always looking for parental involvement and help in our programs and initiatives. But we also like to celebrate with you guys, and we do host trivia and bowling nights, which will it will go on throughout the semester. We haven't quite figured out the dates yet, but it will happen throughout the year. And last but not least, our community involves our alumni. These are the stewards of our school. So often we hear from them how blessed they felt to be part of this diverse group. And they felt that they were prepared for not just college, but life. They are instrumental in supporting our initiatives and programs. And as you can see, it all comes full circle. We all work together here at CBC to celebrate our students and to give them as many opportunities to celebrate their diversity. So thank you, and back to Mr. Miller.
Okay, that's our program. I just want to end by saying that I think when you look at these wonderful women and men, I think you get a sense of what your son is experiencing here at CBC. I've been here 36 years, and I've loved every minute of it. And I think you're in a good space here. Your son is in a good space, and we just want to make it better. So anything that we can do for you, please don't hesitate to call. You can contact us through the email, contact us over the phone, stop us at these different events like this. We want to hear from you, and we want to help in whatever way that we can. A couple announcements before we get out of here. First of all, you should have had your son's, picked up your son's schedule on the way in. Wow, we are just flying. This is incredible. We've never done this before. We've never been on time before is what I'm trying to say. But we are on time, and so when you leave, if you look at the bottom of that schedule, it'll tell you his advisor. Okay, not Mr. Miller, his advisor. And that's the room that you're heading for. You're heading for his advisory room. Okay? So that's the first thing. Second thing is, if you have anything to drop off, you can head down the hallway on your way to the advisory and drop that off, I think. Right, Justin? Are they waiting down there? And any other announcements?
If anybody did not pick up their son's schedule, it's going to be in Ross Hall to the left-hand side. You separated the freshmen and the upperclassmen. So if you did not pick up your freshman son's schedule, it's to the left-hand side of Ross Hall.
And lastly, if, as Mike said, you didn't need to take notes because this will be posted on Blackboard and I think on our Cadet Student Network as well. So If you want to refer back to it, there was something that came up you didn't quite catch, there's a couple different spots that you can do that with. Thank you for being here. We appreciate it. Have a great back to